Hi everyone. We all know that now Museveni is looking for allies, or he's looking for people to actually legitimize his presidency. It is a hard task for him because not so many now are actually willing to send him congratulatory message that would be a sign that they have recognized his government because of the atrocities he has done. Usually, by this time, Museveni would have received congratulatory messages from different embassies, US Embassy, American, European, and so many other African countries. What is interesting is, of course, it is the neighbors that have to congratulate Museveni first. And for this matter, what happened was, John Pombe Magufuli of Tanzania, who used the same tactics as Museveni in his previous election, was the first to congratulate him. But that didn't come as a surprise, because from what we have seen on his tweet that he sent out to President Museveni, Rais Pombe Magufuli received a very big backlash from the people of Tanzania. That is from his own supporters, as well as the people who support Tundu, one of the biggest opposition leaders in Tanzania, which clearly showed that his tweet was actually unpopular, and the people of Tanzania have thought otherwise. We all know that the people of Tanzania have actually stood with Ugandans in the fight against Museveni's dictatorship, because Museveni has destabilized the entire region, as well as each and every country in the East African region. Now, other people, of course, have come out to congratulate Museveni. The country known as Burundi, with its president known as Ndishimiye, is the one who sent a message, and it didn't receive a lot of traction. Not so many people actually even reacted to that one. So if at all Burundi recognizes you as a president, it doesn't weigh as much as, a country like Egypt or a country like, those other countries that would recognize you. This is not to mean that Burundi, of course, is not a country. This is not to mean that Burundi, this and this and that. But what I'm trying to mean, the president of Burundi recognizing what Museveni's government, with the tactics he used, really is something laughable. And for the people of Burundi, I do believe that they thought otherwise. But the most interesting thing that happened today was the message that came from our neighbor Kenya, which is actually the biggest country, which is one of the biggest countries which is the country with the biggest economy in the entire East Africa. So the message came from Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, or President Uhuru Kenyatta, and this is how it read. It says, President Uhuru Kenyatta has termed President Museveni's re-election as a testimony of the confidence the people of Uganda have in his leadership. In a congratulatory message to the Ugandan leader, President Kenyatta said that he looks forward to continue working with President Museveni in deepening the strong bilateral ties between Kenya and Uganda for the mutual benefit of the people of the two republics. President Kenyatta said Uganda has achieved stability, registered consistent economic growth under President Museveni, and assured of Kenya's commitment to continue partnering with Uganda in advancing regional and continental integration agenda through East African Community and the African Union and other multilateral platforms. So that was the message from Kenyatta through the State House Facebook page and Twitter handles. Moments later, this happened. What you see there, Facebook actually flagged the message. They claimed that what they flagged wasn't the message, but the picture. After a while, when they got that flag, you know what happened? They pulled the message down. Not only that happened, but the people of Kenya, who have stood with the Ugandan people for all this time throughout fighting Museveni, they actually sent the State House, they bombarded it with fiery replies, both on Facebook as well as Twitter. We would like to thank the people of Kenya and other countries who have stood with the Ugandans. You guys have really done a good job for us. You guys have really helped us. Things would have been worse if at all you guys didn't care. And for that, we will never forget your input that you have put in to help us and to help fight for the plight of the Ugandan people. So, Uhuru Kenyatta and the government of Kenya, they didn't want to get very much, I think, ashamed, because having put a false information banner on their message, it is really something that is very, very, very shaming. So they had to remove both the Twitter message as well as the Facebook message. So it is really interesting. I mean, I don't know why. But of course, if Kenya endorses Museveni, it is something completely different. If at all they have to take the message down afterwards, that is drama. It is real drama. Thank you very much, whoever is operating the Kenyan Web State House account, and for seeing that it was not worthwhile to recognize Museveni as president, and you had to take it down. We know you guys might be in conversations and you might bring back another post, but at least you have showed us that you are being forced to do this kind of thing from Museveni himself, so that you recognize him, even having used such kind of tactics. But the important issue here that we are talking about is every leader in East Africa was maintaining that, they are looking forward to work with Museveni through the East African community. He's a good father for East African community, blah, 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 blah. These people should understand that this is the third time the East African community is being brought back again. Museveni has failed the East African community twice. And now you're congratulating him and looking forward to working with him in order, through East African community, African Union, and other multinational organizations. Museveni has lived through the East African Cooperation, then the East African Community, then the African Organization of African Unity, and now the African Unity. He has lived through all those years. Whenever you legitimize a dictator who has used brute force against its people, what is going to happen is this. The next time another dictator within East Africa does the same to his own people, the neighbors will keep quiet, and also they will send a congratulatory message to that particular dictator. So as East Africans, what we shall be doing is grooming dictators and small gods within the region that do not want to leave power, that want to serve until they die, and that crush and kill their own opponents, and that treat their opponents as enemies. That is the sort of leadership that we are building in the East African region. That is what we are building. Be it Kenya, Uganda, South Sudan, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi. The problem of Africa and East Africa has never been economics. No, the problem of East African community and all these other multinational organizations, it is only one problem. It is leadership. It is leaders that do not want to leave power. It is leaders that don't want to be critiqued. It is leaders that do not want advice from other people. It is leaders that think that for them they don't run out of ideas. That for them, their ideas, they are always having ideas, even after 40 years. I'll give you an experiment that happened in West Africa. 2 countries and 2 leaders. One was Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana. The other one was Felix Houphouët-Boigny of the Côte d'Ivoire. Before these 2 countries got independence, Felix Houphouët-Boigny urged that because the French were in Côte d'Ivoire and doing a good job, they were helping the economy. And so, Côte d'Ivoire shouldn't become independent. It should stay. They are not ready to get independence from the French because they are economically good and progressing. On the other hand, Kwame Nkrumah told this gentleman that, look here, we need political independence first before we can have economic independence. For Houphouët-Boigny, it was economic independence before political independence. They shook hands and said, let us meet in 10 years. In 10 years, Nkrumah, of course, had championed independence in Ghana, but he had also become president. And for that reason, he progressed with this idea, whereby they had to put political independence first before economic independence. On the other hand, Felix Houphouët-Boigny had also become president, and Côte d'Ivoire had received its independence, but then he had also progressed his idea of economic independence first before political independence. This is what happened. Nkrumah, 10 years later, he was toppled and took out of power. 10 years later, Houphouët-Boigny and the Côte d'Ivoire was progressing economically, and it came to be known as the Ivorian miracle. Jobs and all this kind of thing. There was a lot of economic growth in Côte d'Ivoire. And it was a country that was being looked at. And during all that time, Ghana was going through a series of coups, one after the other. Politically, things were failing to work out. But on the other hand, in Cote d'Ivoire, the gentleman ruled for over 35 years, I think, or 30 years, I stand to be corrected. But the country was progressing economically, in terms of economic growth. Now, this is what happened. In the early 90s, Ghana got its things in order. And then it struck the balance between economic and political. By doing that, they managed to change leadership peacefully from one gentleman to another, up to today. They have that, and it's an experiment that entire African continent and one of the strongest democracies in West Africa, whereby they can peacefully change power from one individual to another. Not yet perfect, but also much better. On the other hand, in Cote d'Ivoire, in the early 90s, you know what happened? Bunyi dies while still in power. To the extent that to some point they asked him, who is going to succeed you? He couldn't give an answer. When he left power, Ivory Coast went into a series of coups and dictatorships. Political independence or economic independence. Where we are in Uganda today, we have been through a series of coups. But now we have a leader who is taking us through what the Ivory Coast took, what Ivory Coast went through at some point. Bunyi was not a dictator, no. He didn't kill people so much. Like, he didn't kill people, right? But the problem is he overstayed his welcome. And by then it created, a ripe kind of environment of coups. A ripe kind of environment of Ivory Coast having to take over more 10 years to go back the way it was after it had gotten independence. That's where we are in Uganda today. In fact, Felix said that the problem with the Ivorian experiment was that we were experiencing economic growth without economic development. That's what you see in Uganda today. They will say that the country is growing, but there is no development. The people's lives have not changed. People live on less than $1 a day. That is what is happening. So the same goes back to the East African community and the so-called AU. The problem as to why these integrations are all failing, it's because of people like Museveni. It is because of people that are congratulating him, like the Magufulis, the Shimiyas, and everyone who will congratulate him, as well as Uhuru Kenyatta. I will not take him out, because of course another message is likely to pop up. For them, what they are looking for is economic prosperity and economic growth and independence as an East African community organization. Instead of looking at solving the problems of Africa have never been economic. The problems of Africa have always been political. And I don't know why the leaders of Africa are not concentrating on sorting out the issues of politics, on sorting out political issues before sorting out economic issues. Because political issues, if they are sorted, the economics will sort itself out completely. This does not need rocket science. The reason as to why the Europe and these other Western countries are progressing at a much faster rate, and then we continue complaining here in Africa, it is because they sorted the issue of leadership. You will not come to the UK finding the one prime minister fighting over another prime minister because he has refused to leave power. That is why in the US, the only thing that they are proud of as a nation is because they can peacefully transfer power from one person to another one. And when their democracy was being threatened by that element this year, they panicked. At that moment, the Wall Street does not matter at all. At that moment, all these giants, the rich people and the economic growth does not matter at that moment. Because in a whisk of a second like this, everything that they have worked for can easily crash and go away. Libya, for example, was a prospering economy on the African continent. But because they did not solve the issues of politics in their country, bang, gone. Politics has to be solved. If any country in the world is coming up, you see, even in the European Union Parliament, these things are empowered with power. Like the power is checked. You can go to the European Union Parliament and they can overturn a decision in a particular member state. But if you go to the East African Parliament, the East African Courts of Justice, whatever, they cannot overturn a decision in particular courts of state. Then it means that East African Parliament, East African Community, blah, 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 Court of Justice, they are all just, they're all just on paper formality and to receive donor money and eat that. So, in conclusion, all East African countries and African countries should understand whenever you legitimize Museveni's government by sending him congratulatory messages, you are calling onto yourself something that is likely to happen in your country. Not today, not tomorrow, but your time is coming. And when that time comes, you will see what I have been talking about today. You will regret the moment as to why you did not condemn the leadership of Museveni and the tactics he used to take back power. You will. Trust me. It might not be today, not tomorrow, but sometime in future. What Africa needs, what East Africa needs, is leaders to stand up and condemn Museveni and condemn all these actions and stand with the oppressed people of Uganda. If you don't do that, what happened in Uganda, it is knocking on your door anytime soon.